happening, y'all? My name is Joey, and this is the Start of the Renewed podcast. This podcast is created off the verse in Romans 12:2, which says, "Do not be conformed to this world, this age, fashioned after and adapted to its external superficial customs, but be transformed, changed by the entire renewal of your mind, by its new ideals and its new attitudes, so that you may prove for yourself what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God, even the thing which is good and acceptable and perfect in His sight for you." What I love about this verse is it perfectly encapsulates what life is like as a Christian. When you become a Christian, nothing changes about you except your spirit is made completely brand new. As it says in Corinthians that you are a brand new creation. However, your mind and your situation will remain the same. And in order to even know what God's will is in your life and to transform any area of your life, you need to renew your mind to what the Word of God actually says. Now, as I've been going through this process, the thing that has been the most difficult that the Lord has been showing me is renewing my mind from things that are very religious but not biblical. You have to keep in mind that when Jesus first came into the world did not have an issue with Jesus. In fact, even Pontius Pilate did not want to send Jesus to the cross, but it was the religious elite who had an issue with this message, even to the point where they let a known convicted felon back into society. And yet the religious elite knew the Torah like the back of their hand, and they could not recognize God in the flesh. So what makes us think as believers that we are turning more like Christ rather than just a religious, pharisaical version of Christianity? It says in the Word of God that you will know them by their fruit. And it begs the question, what is the fruit of the church? Pastors are caught in affairs. A lot of people have church hurt. There are wolves in sheep's clothing. People are more anxious and depressed than ever. And a lot of the congregation is struggling with secret addictions. Dr. Patrick Carn, who is a leading psychologist who works primarily with addicts, said that 78% of the addicts he works with came from very rigid environments. What is a rigid environment? It usually is a strict environment with a lot of rules and no relationship or grace. And yet I've noticed within the church that we are quick to put people on a performance plan of perfection rather than teaching them the pace of grace. And a lot of this stems from bad teaching that we have learned from reading the Word of God wrong. You have to understand that communications taken out of context will cause contradiction. And in order to understand the context of the Word of God, you need to know Jewish culture. And yet we look at the Word of God from an American point of view and come up with lessons that the Word of God was not intended for. So how do we know that what we're reading is actually biblical? And the lessons that we are learning are actually biblical. And it all comes down to the fruit of the Spirit. And so therefore, in order to transform any area of your life and to know the will of God, you need to renew your mind to what the Word of God actually says.